Today I'm going to show you how to draw with this scribble technique that you may have seen me using in some of my short YouTube videos. If you would like to watch them, you can find them by clicking on my channel and heading over to the Shorts tab. While you're there, please don't forget to subscribe for more awesome art tips. Okay, so one of my favorite pen techniques is crosshatching, but when I use this one to produce artworks, I take a more loose approach with the application. For this technique, I prefer to use a ballpoint pen, as the aggressive application that I'm going to use can wear a fine tip pen down quite quickly, so I find ballpoint pen will just last a little bit better. If you're not using a pen that was designed for art purposes, please be aware that some inks fade in the sun, so when producing an actual artwork that you intend to keep, please either do some research beforehand on what pens to use or trial different pens by leaving them in the sunlight. It is also a good idea to frame your artworks using UV protective glass. If you're not sure what crosshatching is, please jump over to one of my other videos explaining hatching and crosshatching for beginners. This is a slightly more in-depth version of that technique. To begin practicing any new technique or even working with any new media, I like to start with a tonal scale and then move on to some sort of a form. In this case, I'm going to use a sphere. You can see I'm applying lines in various directions. My pressure is light and I will hold my pen on an angle to slow the flow of ink when I want to achieve lighter marks. To achieve darker marks, I move my hand toward the tip of the pen and apply slightly more pressure. When you make your marks, try to imagine that you're doing a bit of a tick motion. Notice how a tick is always darker where you begin and lighter at the end as your pen leaves the page. For this reason, always work dark to light. Never begin making your mark in the light area of your artwork. Always work from the dark towards the light. You can only achieve this flicky tick sort of effect if you work quickly, so please don't be afraid to make fast marks and do your best not to overthink it. If you try to control the lines, they will look controlled. They won't look creative and free. One of the beautiful things about this technique is that it actually looks really nice if you go outside the lines a little bit. Sometimes I add in really crazy marks to make the artwork look more expressive, but I always make sure that the focal points are drawn with a little bit more precision and then let the rest of the subject matter be drawn loosely. This might apply to something like facial features. In a portrait, for example, you would do the eyes, the nose, the mouth in more detail and then let the rest of the portrait be drawn quite loosely. Using this approach helps you to achieve an impression of realism without having to draw the entire portrait in heavy detail. Okay, so as you can see, I'm going over the same area again, but this time I won't work as far over as the first layer. With each layer, I will stop further back, and this will help me to create a gradient. My marks will become shorter and more bold in the darker area, and they're longer and lighter in the lighter area. Once you have had a go at a tonal scale, move on to something a little more complicated. A sphere is challenging because you cannot place your lines in just any direction. You need to think about the form, and you'll notice that I start to curve my lines as if they wrap around the circular shape. This is important if you are drawing something like a portrait, because you would imagine where the facial structure rises and falls and make your marks with this being taken into consideration. I like to tell my students to imagine they are applying lotion to their faces and imagine the way the hand moves down the edge of the nose and over the cheekbones, for example. This is the direction that you would be wanting to place your dominant lines in. You can still have marks going in other directions, but you need to make sure that you have more marks following the curve or the form of whatever your subject matter is. You'll begin to notice as I'm drawing the sphere that I'm trying to define the edge a little bit. I like to do this to help to maintain the idea of realism. A nice sharp edge amongst the scribbles can help your drawing to pop a little bit more. I'll also do this when I'm drawing a portrait. I'll define maybe the edge of the face or the outline of something like the eyes or maybe the nostril area or the lips, just anything that is going to be a bit more of a focal point. I guess one of the most important things is to just remember to work in layers, because this helps you to achieve more depth in your drawing. Build the dark areas up slowly. This also helps you to avoid making mistakes because you're not jumping in and making dark marks before you're sure that that's definitely where you want your shadow to be. If you want to see another more refined scribble technique, please jump over to my channel and view my playlist on scribble techniques where you can find a variety of different videos. I hope you enjoyed this video. Comment below if you have any questions, and please don't forget to subscribe for more awesome art tips. Thank you and good luck.